At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today and let us surprise you.
Welcome to What Fresh Hell Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Deep Dive. This is Amy, and we're doing a deep dive into our archives, into all episodes around a particular topic. This deep dive is sort of parenting outside the box. You can find the playlist for this deep dive of all the episodes we're revisiting in our show notes for this episode. It's a Spotify playlist. You can listen to them all. You can send them to a friend who might have a kid they need to parent outside the box, which is basically all of us. This week's episode we are revisiting is When the World Moves Too Fast for Our Kids. The world moves too fast for all of our kids sometimes, and some of our kids all of the time. I have one kid who always wishes that they had a little bit more time to do the thing that I am now asking them to stop doing and start doing something else. And for that kid, and for all kids, truly, I have discovered along the way that fewer transitions really helps. Don't stop at home to get the paperwork for the dentist after school and then go to the dentist. Bring the paperwork with you in the car. Bring the soccer cleats with you. Bring the snack with you. The fewer places you have to transition into and then back out of again, the happier your kid who doesn't like to move too quickly will be. We talk about that more in this episode, but that was an important thing for me to revisit. And the other thing that was the takeaway that I had real time as we were recording this episode, and I've carried it with me ever since, is that if you have a kid for whom the world moves too fast, it's really important, I think, that your own household be a place where that doesn't happen, where that kid can still play with American Girl dolls or Pokemon, can still go in the dress-up box when they're 10, can still do the things that the world tells them they're too old to still be doing, because at home they don't have to be. And I think that's a really important way to be a safe space for our kids. So we talk about that more in this episode too. This is full of great advice for parenting slow-moving kids. Hope you enjoy it.
Like, we don't need the 4-year-old to run the threshing machine anymore.
What fresh hell?
Laughing in the face of motherhood.
You're going to stay home with me and we're going to watch Frozen again.
With Margaret Abels
and Amy Wilson.
All right, little rebel, you go do your cursing.
A podcast that solves today's parenting dilemmas
so you don't have to.
We had Sears Dragon shirts. Hey, everybody. Welcome to What Fresh Hell Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Amy.
And this is Margaret. And today we're talking about when the world moves too fast for our kids.
I love this topic because we were talking about it in a young kid sense. And I said, wait a minute, this is an older kid sense. Like, this applies across ages and stages, our very favorite.
Yes. I recently had this conversation when Halloween happened. And it's a very interesting marker, I feel like, where your kid is on the scale. I could see in my older kids this sort of, we're too old for trick-or-treating, and like, it's not cool to trick-or-treat anymore. The big kids are going to parties or throwing eggs at people's houses and being mischievous. I still really want to trick-or-treat because it's fun, but I want to be cool, so I want to let it go.
And I feel like you can see the 14-year-old who will be not sure if they want to trick-or-treat or not and not quite ready to do the thing next may well be the same kid who was the 3-year-old who had a really hard time getting dressed in the morning and getting out to preschool, who really wanted to play for a while in their pajamas first. That's where I'm coming in, that there are some people for whom the world moves a little more quickly than their basic speed, which is not incorrect, is maybe a little different than that of the world around them.
Yes, this is often referred to as immaturity, is kind of the category I think this falls into.
Yeah, I think it's more than that, but that it can manifest itself as social immaturity. I mean, there's things like slow processing speed, which I wanted to talk about. Then it can come out as like, I'm not quite ready to do what everybody thinks I'm supposed to be ready to be doing in large and small ways, in good and bad ways.
And it dovetails with any kind of developmental challenge, such as ADD, ADHD, autism, any kind of processing difference, anxiety. The readiness to be on the fast track is harder for some kids. I was a kid who was a 16-year-old trick-or-treater. I was late to believe in many things that people kept telling me in my elementary school and beyond were not correct anymore. I was a very, very young kid. I didn't date in high school. We were talking with the Halloween folks. We now just sort of gather and the kids go their separate ways. People were tracking their kids in a different way. They used to track them to be like, are they nearby and safe? And now they track them. Whose house are they at? And do I know whose house that is? And then I know that a grown-up is home. And a lot of the parents were saying, oh yeah, guy was drinking and going to parties, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. That seemed bizarre to me.
I got to do a shout out to Jess Leahy, who wrote The Addiction Inoculation. If you haven't read that book, read it because it's important. There is no world in which 13 and 14-year-olds should be consuming alcohol. It's not good for their brains, which doesn't mean that some aren't going to be doing it. And that way, it's like, great, fantastic if you have the 14-year-old who isn't vaping and their friends are. Although it does mean that they can be left behind if they're not ready to date, if they still want to talk about Pokemon. So it's not always bad, but it is hard on them.
Let's start with this in littler kids. Studies basically show this is very marked for little kids because there's so many developmental milestones that are very clear. Anson Koshi, MD, assistant professor of pediatrics at the McGovern Medical School, says and points out there can be an entire year between oldest and youngest kids in a classroom. Developmentally, there may be a big gap between these groups. Younger kids may have a harder time paying attention, sitting still, especially compared to their peers. I have a kid who is more than a calendar year younger than most of the kids in his class. It was quite noticeable in elementary school, and it continues to be noticeable, I think.
I had the kid who was the youngest in his class, and then we did hold him back, and he became the oldest in his class. And it was marked to me how he moved differently among his peers as the oldest and the youngest without having any explicit understanding or knowledge of that. You know what I'm saying? Nor did the other kids. They didn't care. They didn't even know. But there just was something about all of a sudden when he was the oldest, like what my kid thought was fun to play with was what they were going to play with, right? And the year earlier, he had played by himself because he was cowed by the kids in the block corner or whatever it was. And that's all it took, was giving him another year in that situation. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to have a kid who really doesn't like to get ready for school, who really can't do as much homework as being asked of them, who really doesn't want to go to the dance because they have the social anxiety and they don't know how to ask somebody. Like, this is the kind of thing that will repeat. And it isn't bad. It's a little heartbreaking to have a kid who isn't ready for what the world is asking of them. I mean, it was hard for you, right? When that kid was younger.
Yes, it was hard. And it was, you never want to feel like your kid is struggling, but I definitely come out team kind of keep them young. Like, I'm always happy for my kid to be running a little bit behind versus ahead. But it is hard, I think, in the younger years when they're struggling with like peers and you're having those conversations. Well, I'm not sure like the Woody from Toy Story costume is what you want to go as in 4th grade. Do you protect? And I think for all ages and stages, we're going to talk about what is your role in this? Should you try to make them something that they're not? Should you try to be like, actually, the kids are now dressing as like scary monsters and or cool Roblox characters. They're over Toy Story. So you should leave that behind,
Yeah. Or I have the perfect example for older kids. Do you remember the super, super bright neon colored socks that were in like 2 or 3 years ago? The Nike, you had to get them, these like $15 socks. That's all they wanted for Christmas, were these socks in these like traffic cone colors. Well, now, you only wear those if you care nothing about your social standing and what will become of you in life, right? Only the most indifferent child wears those. And, so my friend of mine was just telling me a story about having to like sneak in and take those out of her kid's door because her kid would happily wear those because he hasn't gotten the memo that like, that's totally uncool. Don't wear those socks anymore. P.S. Maybe you live in Ohio and those are like those are super cool. I don't know. It's like, it's completely arbitrary and nonsensical. I don't mean that you should care about the socks. I just mean that your kid can miss the memo. And then, are you supposed to correct and sneak those socks out of the door for them? I think in the little ways you are, and in the big ways you're not. It's so hard.
My parents were completely against any form of fitting in by wearing what was cool, to the point where they kind of forbade us from having, at Old Deluxe Alert, Jordache jeans.
Back in my day.
Which were the cool jeans when we were kids.
Yep.
Or gold digger jeans. Those were the ones I really wanted. They had the zipper had a little gold bar on it to open and close your back pockets.
I didn't have those either. My mother wouldn't buy us alligator shirts, Lacoste alligator shirts. We had Sears dragon shirts. It had a dragon on them. And my husband, we were just talking about this. He's like, well, of course you get the alligator shirt. You have to get your kid the alligator shirt, even if you have to scrimp and save, lest they suffer. I'm like, not in my house. We wear the Sears dragon.
We were just talking about this, and my husband and Amy's husband were talking about how there was some off-brand, like it was a night jousting, and that was like the off-brand alligator shirt, which was probably worse than no shirt at all.
Yes.
Like you either go alligator shirt or you're like, I'm not conforming with the alligator shirt, but to show up in the knight's honor or whatever.
All right. So I think I'm understanding now the fact that differentiates these two things. If your kid doesn't care what's on their shirt, to be like, no, you have to get this shirt because this is cool now, and to be like over-engineering that is silly. On the other hand, if your kid does care, for you to be pulling back on the reins, like, we're not like other people. You go as Ruth Bader Ginsburg for Halloween, not a Pokemon.
Right.
Then that's you involving yourself in where they fit in relative to their peers and their maturity, which is probably not helpful.
Yeah. And I think I was 3 and 3 years. My brother and sister and I were always 1 year apart in school. So the three of us were there together. My younger sister went by herself. And I think my parents had a little bit more of an awakening of like, oh, she is a social outcast because she will not wear any of the cool clothes because we won't buy them for her.
Because she has none.
And then, of course, by the time we were like, maybe we should just get her the Benetton rugby shirt that like literally every kid wears as the uniform, the horse was out of the barn. Like at that point, it's too late to show up in the Benetton rugby shirt. But, I definitely had conversations with my mom around like whether or not participating in this was like good or bad. And I do think in thinking about this episode and preparing for it, my word of the year is morally neutral. If maturity versus immaturity, fast or slow, if they are morally neutral, if you have a kid who moves at any pace, is there anything good or bad about those things? And I think for younger kids, the answer is there are behaviors that are disruptive to their education and their social life, like them having a successful social life. Mm-hmm. Things like impulsive behavior, needing a tremendous amount of attention. This can manifest in inappropriate behavior, bullying, a desire for positive attention that results in negative behavior, hyperactive behavior, acting out. The pace your kid moves at is sort of it's not a variable. It's a constant.
Yes, yes.
But that if you're noticing in your young kid that they are super, super immature, that is something to work with them on. As my mother would say, there's only one thing you can change, which is behavior. You can't change their maturity set point, really. You can't be like, grow up, act your age. Doesn't work. But you can practice things like emotional regulation, turn taking, manners, taking their own timeouts, resetting. I have a kid who has a low frustration point, and he will often say, I'm going to go up to my room for a little while. He knows that he has to like take time away because he knows he's going to lose it. And sometimes we have a ton of families. So we'll have like Sunday night, 14 people are coming up, and he's like, I'm just going to go to my room and do Legos for a while. And then I'll come and join. Like he's gotten a lot better about regulating his exposure to things that he knows overwhelms him.
I have a really good tip if you have a kid for whom the world moves too fast and they're young, although not so young. I mean, it really has worked for me throughout my parenting journey in this particular case, and that's to cut a transition wherever you can. Like if your kid has to go to soccer practice and then their friend's birthday party after that, don't stop home in between. Bring the birthday present to soccer. If you have to go to, church and then soccer practice, have your stuff for soccer practice, they can change in the car. The fewer ins and outs of different houses, the fewer times you have to get in and out of the car, like batch your errands, anything you can do to make this kid who has a hard time transitioning, at least it's how it manifested in my kid's case, just took them forever to get out the door. And then in school, when music was over, they didn't want to line up for art. When art was over, they didn't want to line up for recess. They were still doing art. All through the day, the kid being forced to transition into something that they didn't want next before they were ready. So at home, I just tried to have fewer transitions, fewer activities, fewer places to go.
And my sister-in-law, who specializes in early childhood education, pointed this out to me. It was really helpful for my kid, who also struggles in this exact same way, that adults don't live this way. Humans are not planned this way. So you're not, Amy, like at home reading a novel that you're enjoying and someone slaps it out of your hand and they're like, nope, Amy, it's puzzle time now. You know, that's not how we function, but it is how school functions. And so understanding what might trigger some of the tough behavior and then really recognizing it and talking to them. You have a lot of trouble with transitions. You have a shorter fuse than some kids, but you're a tremendously good artist, you know, like really helping them not define it as like, stop acting like a baby. You're so immature. Why can't you be like other kids?
Right. Go faster like the rest of us. Yeah.
They can't be like other kids. They would be like other kids if they could. And then another tip that I really liked, and I've tried really hard with my kids, pressing autonomy. And as my kids have gotten older, I have a kid who's kind of regressing on the like, I don't want to go to school. And so I'm going to drag around in the mornings. I've gone as much as possible to the car leaves at this time. And if you're not in it, you can explain to your teachers why you're late. And I've told the school, if he's late, give him detention. It's your choice whether or not to get to school in time versus I will yell at you 500 times about your socks in the morning and therefore you won't get detention.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Let's take a break and we'll come back and talk a little bit about slightly older kids, Amy.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH. My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com. Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand. And it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING. I think that what we're getting at is that our job as parents of kids for whom the world moves a little too quickly in ways large and small is that there's a tension that we have to walk between helping them feel good about who they are and making the world a little easier for them and helping them catch up to the world that wants them to move faster. I think sometimes we have to do each. And I feel bad when I fall too hard on the side of, but you do have to do all this stuff and who cares? And let's go. You signed up for Boy Scouts and now you're doing Boy Scouts. It's hard to know when to keep doing that and when to let your kid be who they are. It's easier when they're 15 and they're resisting vaping. It's harder when they're 5 and they don't want to go to the birthday party because they're a little nervous about you leaving. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Although I would argue that even that exists on that same continuum. They don't want to go to the big kid party because they're not sure what's happening there and what their role in that is. Like, I think, as you said at the beginning, it's the same line that is happening.
And there's a part of you that wants them to go to the high school party, maybe not drink or vape or whatever, but you want them to be with their peers and have a social life and know how to handle that. You don't want them to stay home. It's very hard to know how much to let your kid embrace who they are and push them. I don't think it's the right answer to do one or the other, obviously, but how to discern in any moment, which they need from you more.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, I saw it so clearly on this whole Halloween outing with kids who are older. Okay, like you're probably too old to trick or treat, but it seems like the only other thing to do is go out and get in trouble and be really a jerk, and egg someone's house. I definitely sat down with my kids beforehand and said, here's what's expected and here's what is not okay. And I get that you're going to be the nerdier kid. I have this with my older kids sometimes where they're like, I just feel like I'm always the buzzkill. And I just kind of come out at, yeah, I get that, but that's kind of what we expect from you. You might always have to be the kid that when the egg throwing starts, you leave. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. Am I stunting their growth somehow? Do you learn more by getting in trouble and doing naughty things? Maybe.
It just came to my mind that Gypsy Rose Blanchard, what was it called? It was an HBO.
Oh, Mommy Dead and Dearest. I cannot wait to see how you're going to tie that in.
Mommy Dead and Dearest. It just makes me think of like, no, don't doing egg houses. Like, you're going to stay home with me and we're going to watch Frozen again, right?
With Mommy.
And make popcorn.
Well, it's Mother Boy from Arrested Development. Like the mom and the grown son are always going to this dance called Mother Boy and they dress in their matching outfits. And the siblings are like, you have to stop this,
Right. You don't want to do that either.
That's right. You don't really want to raise like mama's boys, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't really want my kids egging other people's houses, Amy. Is that wrong?
Sometimes I think there might be some more specific coaching. So I mentioned before about slow processing speed, and that can be something that manifests in kids with ADHD and different things where they actually have a little bit of a hard time keeping up with the pace of conversation. This can, manifest like in the classroom in 3rd grade, like the teacher said, everybody get out your notebooks and they're thinking about Star Wars and they didn't get out their notebook. And then in high school, in this sort of cafeteria chaos, like I can't quite follow the stream of conversation here. It's moving a little too quickly for me because the world moves a little too quickly for me. And so I'm just going to kind of sit here and not participate because this makes me feel anxious. Now, you can't be your kid's social anxiety coach. That perhaps that's not a role that you want to play. That won't work well for mom to be the social anxiety coach, but it is something you can definitely become more well-informed about, get coaching if that's available to you, and help them with that because it sometimes really is, it's an anxiety thing that you can help them with, but first they have to recognize, I'm somebody for whom the world moves a little too quickly, which is a delicate topic to bring up.
Yeah. And I think that's right. That acknowledging it as what it is. Like, hey, you are younger than the other kids in your grade. Things are moving faster. Kids are doing stuff that you're maybe not ready for. That's okay. You can spend 2 more years trick-or-treating past when other kids think it's cool. It's fine. It really comes down to helping them build like a self-esteem and a self-confidence. They don't think of themselves as bad or behind or lame or weird. You're trying to help them reframe that as like, you're at a different place than other kids, and that's fine. Kids mature at different ages. Right. And on the other end of the spectrum, this was interesting, an article from psychcentral.com talking about what we talk about as growing up too fast is often equated with kids who have to take care of themselves, kids who are not well taken care of, kids who feel like they always have to be strong, can't ask for help. We're talking about parents who are trying to help direct how this comes out.
Or even benign neglect, like Harriet the Spy. Her parents were just out every night and she was
doing her own thing.
Yeah.
I have a kid who is extremely mature and gets on their bike on Saturday mornings and rides around the town and is starting a business of selling baked goods and goes down to the bookstore where her friend runs the bookstore and they did it. Mm-hmm. That's just how she's wired, and she's much younger than her 3-year-old or sibling who's not doing those things. It's just some of this is set point. Where do I actually have any control in this situation? That's what's hard, right? I did at some point went into town and introduce myself to a bunch of people where I know she stops. And I said, I'm her parent. If she's doesn't belong here because she's too young, if she's bothering you, like, here's my number. And they're, oh no, she's fine. She loves to come in and do her thing. But it's also like doing that in a safe way. That's one thing. It's different than being on my phone Halloween night and thinking like, where is this kid? And is he somewhere that I don't know? And I don't know what's going on. Now, is that going to be the same in senior year? Maybe I'm going to say, all right, go and be where you want. I guess I won't know where you are, and it'll be up to you to navigate those situations.
I mean, it's different than it used to be. We have some research here about this, that teenagers, this is according to CBS News, high school kids today are less likely to be drinking or sexually active versus their counterparts in the 80s and 90s. But they are also less likely to go on dates, have a part-time job, or drive, the sort of more positive traditional milestones on the path to adulthood. And I think that's true. My kids live in New York City, so that's a particularly specific combination of ahead of and behind peers in places that don't have public transportation. But it's true. I think that your kid might have less catching up to do by senior year than you might think.
We know so much more now. A friend of mine was telling me this story about going to a college party. She was 12, I think, and getting really drunk at a college party at 12. I mean, my mind goes to all the places. This was maybe in the 80s, 90s. Those conversations were not being had. And the idea of a 12-year-old getting drunk at a party. In what world? I don't want that happening. It's out. No.
It was just Harriet the Spy, like a little older, right? That's what the Spy was doing by 9th grade.
And I do think that we're so aware of the dangers of drinking and being around older people and the many things that go terribly wrong in those situations. But then, yes, I don't want to become Flowers in the Attic where I'm like, okay, you're locked in. We're going to Mother Boy. That is your only social life. Mm-hmm. But it is hard to find that balance. And as that article says, the upside of slower development is that teens aren't growing up before they're ready. That's 12-year-old at the big kids party. But the downside is they go to college and into the workplace without as much experience with independence.
I have the perfect story for this. Go to drop-off day at college for my oldest child. Roommate from another country, from outside the United States, extremely worldly, extremely polite, very mature young person who watched me make my child's bed. Yes, I'm overdoing it. Yes, it's my final goodbye to my kid, and I'm going to make his bed before I leave him there for 2 months, right? Make sure everything's in order. And this kid said so politely, "Excuse me, ma'am, if you don't mind, could you show me how to do that?" He had gotten to college without knowing how to put a fitted sheet on a bed. Mm-hmm. And this is a kid who was so extremely achieving in other ways, but didn't know how to put a fitted sheet on a bed, which is not just good or bad. It's just they have weird pockets of maturity and immaturity compared to what we had. Like, don't know how to make a bed, right? Like, I was babysitting for free when I was 8 years old. Like, I knew how to make a bed. I knew how to load a dishwasher. These kids, I mean, including myself in this, they don't know how to drive. They don't have part-time jobs. Like, we've coddled them a little bit because the road to higher education is so difficult, and they have to be in their travel sport, and they have to have 8 AP classes, so they can't possibly also have a paper route.
Right. We could track them on their phones. We know where they are every second of the day.
And so they do get to college a little bit less mature, which I guess is sort of arguing against the idea that the world moves too fast for them. Like, I made his bed for him. He was totally nice about it. And now he knows how to make a bed. I just mean, like, it's interesting. It's interesting how these kids are less mature in some ways than we were, and in some ways much more.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. All right, let's take a break and we'll be back and we'll figure it all out, people. Don't worry. We're going to solve it.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that. taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. And now, when the world moves too fast for moms.
From the What Fresh Hell podcast.
Can you add me to your WhatsApp chat? No, you cannot. I have no idea what that is.
Why are they playing Madonna on the oldie station?
Please stop calling me bruh. I am your mother.
No, I don't understand why you need a YouTube channel, mister, because you're 6.
Ugh, I'm not ready for Be Real. I'm still trying to figure out Snapchat.
Who is Logan Paul? And why do you need his energy drink?
Kids, check it out. I think I finally mastered the Hit Your Roly TikTok dance. What do you mean we're not doing that one anymore?
How could it be November? What happened to September and October?
This has been When the World Moves Too Fast for Moms.
From the What Fresh Hell podcast.
All right, Amy, so you said before we took a break, and BBC would like to agree with exactly what you said. Basic stages in children's development aren't changing, says Shelley Pasnick, Senior Vice President and Director of the Center for Children and Technology. The external world is constantly shifting, but children's cognitive and emotional milestones stay the same.
Okay.
So there are traditional markers. I mean, I think that what all they're saying is that the kids aren't changing, but our expectations of them change. You'll constantly see like online videos and it's like a 3-year-old with an open flame, like making rice for his sister somewhere, you know, the idea that like, oh, everywhere else children are developed and mature, but there are some basic fundamental realities that teenagers' brains are not fully developed. They are still doing race car brain with no brakes. That kid who may be boating around at 13 is still like revving the engine to show off for girls and like going too fast and making bad choices.
Yeah. And it's a little bit complicated to say that that teen's experience is better or more correct than your teen's experience because they don't have, 4 hours of homework and 7th grade or whatever. Like that's the most clear example I can think of changing expectations. Our kids may be socially younger, but kindergarten's the new first grade's the new third grade, right? My kid got to college, my oldest kid, again, and found college extremely easy compared to high school. And I thought, in a way, that's good. In a way, why are we doing that, right? Do we need to make high school so hard that college is easy? I'm not sure that was really such an important goal.
Yeah, like what's going on there? That doesn't seem quite right.
No, it doesn't seem quite right.
I think the crux of what you're saying from that same BBC article is today, in an age of low birth rates and high life expectancies, children tend to be closer to their parents and grow up in a safer environment and thus can mature more slowly. This means they aren't pushed towards independence in the same way children growing up in a fast maturation environment, what previous generations experienced might be, right?
That's true.
Like, we don't need the 4-year-old to run the threshing machine anymore.
That's right. And that your 4-year-old could not be dropped into that situation and function. Like, of course he couldn't, because he hasn't spent every minute of his life in that situation. Nor have you.
But I do think the takeaway is that we all want, like, if you poll parents, what are the number one thing they want is safety and happiness for their children, right? That's what parents want. Mm-hmm. But I think our conversation today is really eliciting that there are some downsides to that safety and cocoon. You don't want the safety and cocoon to lead to mother boy. You want it to lead to like a bird who's ready to fly at some point.
Yes.
Understanding the risks. My sister-in-law tells a story all the time about climbing a tree when she was a kid, and it was probably maybe 20 feet off the ground, really high enough to do herself some damage. And there was another tree and it wasn't attached. So there was one point where she had to like leave contact with tree number 1 and jump to tree number 2, 20 feet off the ground. It's such a memory for her of like doing it and accomplishing it. And I just hear that story now as a mom and I'm like, oh my God, I hope my kids are not climbing trees where they have. But the point of the story is there is a resilience that you come to. And this always, as you know, it is a thorn in my side, the idea of like, well, grit is what kids really need, because I know a lot of people who grew up with a tremendous amount of grit and did not have great outcomes because their grit came from too much trauma, you know? And so grit is sort of like the thing that wealthy and stable parents want to import to their kids. But kids who actually have grit need money and supportive parents. You know, it's not like grit is a box.
Yeah.
Inside is grit, because it's hard to manufacture grit when you grow up. I was just laughing with a friend about this. When I went to college, I was like, I'm out of here, you small-minded losers. I can't wait to be free of your constricts and constructs. And by the way, please pay for my college, the man, you know?
The man, yeah.
And so many of my friends' kids, they're like, I'll just stay at home. They don't want to go. They're really happy at home, you know? There's good and bad. It's that balance. On the one hand, I think it's great that at 18, I was ready to say, like, I'm ready to throw off the shackles of this place and go be my own self.
Go eat in a dining hall, right?
Oh, yeah, that you pay for. Please re-up my account because I want a slice of pizza. Yeah, exactly. Rebel without a cause. So this is the crux of where it lives. Like, we want safety and happiness, but without any challenges, we're in mother boy. So like, where do we find that balance?
You know, it's the thing we talk about so often in our question of the week episodes. Like, my 15-month-old throws food on the floor every day. How do I get him to stop? And sort of inherent in that when you're in it is the idea that like, I need to fix this or else I'll have an 18-year-old who throws food on the floor. And so often the answer is like, that's what 15-month-olds do. And they probably won't be doing it by the time they're 3. And here's how you can gently redirect in the meantime, right? It isn't something you need to stop and fix. It's something you need to support while they're learning new skills. And maybe the 15-year-old is a little shy about going to the party, who doesn't want to go to the dance or doesn't want to go to the prom or whatever. There can be pain in that for us, I think, because we're recognizing ourselves in that and we don't want our kids to struggle, but we don't want to be the struggle by forcing them to do things they're not ready to do. And I'm not sure that's always our job, right? Like, they'll get there. They'll leave the house. They will meet people with or without us pushing them to do so.
I think where I come out is that I need to be a little bit the thing that my kids are struggling against, because I'm already finding my teenagers, you're no fun. Why are our rules like this? No one else has these rules. Fine. Let me be the enemy. I believe, and I'm early in this, and listen, get back to me in 2 years, 3 years. I am team everything can wait, basically. I like to keep it slow. The situations that involve kids being out together, getting up to shenanigans, I think those are really, really difficult situations for young kids. I remember them being difficult for the very few times I participated in them myself. My mom always said, like, keep the boundaries tight so that the kids always feel like they're going outside of them. We don't allow cursing, for example, in my house. Like, none of my kids curse, but I'll hear my son playing games with a friend down in the game room as I pass by with the laundry and his door is closed and he's cursing with his friends. I don't open the door and say, yeah, there's no cursing in this house. It's like, okay, all right, little rebel, you go do your cursing thing.
Yeah. Tough guy. Yeah.
He feels very like mature to be outside of the lines, but it's not, I'm still good with it. Keep the lines tighter than you want them to be because the kids will go outside the lines. Now, at the same time, they can't be so tight that the kid just blows up the lines. It's a constant readjustment and a balance. One of the things that helped me in what we were talking about today is really knowing your kid's starting point. Okay, this is a kid who is young for his grade. This is a kid who has some processing things, sensory things that make him even younger for his grade, and therefore maybe encourage relationships and activities that suit a less mature kid, and view maturity a little bit more agnostically, like view maturity as morally neutral, that being immature is not something to be corrected necessarily.
There is an age where this starts to shift. I'm thinking about like a super silly and can't sit down and always yelling stuff out in class first grader, in terms of peers, might have a different experience in terms of peers than a fourth or fifth grader who's still doing that. There's immaturity that's mostly a pain in the tush for the adults surrounding. And then there's an age at which it becomes like, stop, that the peers start saying that it starts to be something that the peers are like, I'm annoyed by your immaturity. That's when it gets tricky. That's when you maybe do have to help your kid course correct a little bit. But even then, right, then you let that kid come home and you let the 13-year-old get out the American Girl dolls if that's what she wants to do, because the world does move a little too fast for them and they need to have a safe space at home where they can play with their stuffed animals if that's what they want to do, right? And not be so cool all the time.
I think that's a really good point. Your house can be a safe space for kids, realizing that they may have to put on a little bit of a mask to function on the other points of the day, that you're going to be dealing with after school restraint collapse, where like the mask comes off. I was just having a conversation with a group of parents about whether or not our boys were still crying. It's interesting, that like some of them have stopped.
Like at 4:30 p.m., just sobbing with exhaustion, you mean?
Just, I messed this up and everybody hates me and I missed the ball and baseball, whatever. I think the thing that you really see is that they have stopped crying in public. They have stopped crying outside of the house. And that it's a good insight into like what it takes for these kids to get through the day. Like they are putting on the mask of like, I am mature now, and that it might be even more important with a young kid or an older kid to really make your house a place where like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to play with American Girl dolls. It's okay to still be excited about the costume box or whatever might seem too young for their peers. It's also okay to put on a little bit of a face to fit in the outside world.
Yeah. Help them do that and then have room for it at home. That being said, like if your kid is like killing you with the baby talk, you can try to sublimate that, right? To give them a positive, I don't know, like if we don't talk like that all day, then we're going to have special movie time tonight. Just you and mommy on the couch like Gypsy Rose and her mother watching Frozen.
And what's underneath that, right? Like that's also how you fix some of that stuff. Like what's underneath that? What's that need to talk like a baby? It's that you feel... Right. My kids were saying about Halloween, like, oh, it wasn't as fun as it usually is. And I thought, it's because you're old. Like, it's fun when you're 6.
Oh, that's sad.
It's just wondrously fun when you're 6. It's so magical. And then when you get older, you kind of realize, like, oh, I'm just putting on an outfit and people are just handing me candy and my mom could just buy me this kid. Like, of course, it's less fun because you're more mature.
Oh,
Did I end on a really sad note?
That's a real downer to end on, but you're so right.
All right, let's turn it around. We definitely solved it, but it was depressing. Listen, there's good and bad. Take the good with the bad, take the happy with the sad. There's great things about being more mature, and there's great things about being less mature.
We have a listener survey. And I'm going to ask you guys, if you haven't filled that out, if you would go to bit.ly/whatfreshhellsurvey. I'm going to put the link in the show notes too. It asks questions about like how old your kids are, how old you are, not your, social security number or anything, like super vague information.
Not your deepest, darkest secrets. What's your social security number? What's your mom's maiden name?
Our sponsors want to know, like, we're pretty sure it's moms listening, but how old their kids are and where you live, things like that. If you could fill out that survey, it would be a huge help to us.
That'd be awesome, friends. And with that, thanks for listening.
Talk to you next week.